Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Evening Devotion. We just had some beautiful rain for the last couple of hours. It was amazing. And in a couple of days, it's going to get cold. So it's going to be a weird winter for everybody, I think. That's okay. We'll make it through it because the Lord is going to watch out for us. Tonight, we're going to read out of Ecclesiastes 1:7. I really love the book of Ecclesiastes. It's like Ruth. There's a lot to learn there. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Into the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. And moved on again. There we go. So in the New King James, it says, all the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. Now, if you do your math and look through the Bible, find out when Solomon lived, you know that we have, 3,000 years, I think. 3,000 years or more. And he knew about evaporation. The people several thousand years ago were a lot smarter than people today tend to give them credit for. I tell you the one thing. Back then, they were smarter than we are now. We think we're smart. We think because we have all this technology. No, technology makes you dumb. They were way smarter than us. They pulled off things we can't do today. The one, I forget the name of some queen out on the thousands of years ago. The Euphrates River actually stopped the Euphrates and redirected it to build a tunnel. And it was a woman. The way she designed the tunnel, it was designed that when the weight of the water came back down on it, it would compress it and seal it and it wouldn't leak. And it worked. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they found that tunnel. It's still there. We can redirect rivers today, but not like that. Even with the technology we have, it's an undertaking. If we're lucky, we can make it happen. Yeah, we think we've done stuff? No. They've got bridges that were built 2,000 years ago that they're still being used today. We got to redo some of our bridges every 100 years. We got bridges out there. There's houses. There's houses that are 1,000 years old that people are still living in today. And look at our houses. Yeah, they were smarter than us. They were a lot smarter than us, especially once we learned what the pyramids are really used for and what all those temples were really used for. Because when you do the research and look a little deeper into their design and see aerial shots of it, those are motherboards. It's electronic circuitry on a giant scale. And all that stone is extremely high in silica, which means it transmits sound, it transmits energy. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They knew a lot of what they were doing. Some guy here a while back, I don't mean to get off topic here, some guy a while back, a bunch of years ago, took a cross-section of the chambers that they know about in the Great Pyramid, the big one, and he built out of PVC those chambers. He built them into a structure, and it turned out that after he built it, he realized it was a ram pump. And so you put it in the water and you run water through it one time and it auto cycles and automatically pumps water. And as long as there's water there, and it self-starts, as long as there's water there, it'll keep running. If the water gets too far away from the inlet, then it just stops functioning. And then when the time comes and it refills it again, it auto starts again. And you can pump water vast distances. Yeah. There's water damage inside the pyramid. How did the water get in there? There's a lot of stuff we don't know that they did back then. A lot of incredible things. It's also thought that the Great Pyramids are actually power generators. And they said, they've asked the Egyptian government, we think we can get them started. If you'll let us try, we'd like to try to start them up. And they told him no. Yeah, very interesting. Anyway, back on topic. These guys, Solomon knew about evaporation. The rivers from the place that they come. So if you start at the mouth of the river up in the mountains and follow it to the ocean, and it goes back and starts again because all the rain happens up there in the snow, and it remelts and starts over again. Yeah, it's a cycle. Very interesting. So let's go up to the first one. All is vanity. The first chapter is a famous one. If you watch my Ecclesiastes series, we made a discovery, very interesting discovery in chapter 12. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south, and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually, and comes again on its circuit. And he's right, it's a circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. How interesting. All that water. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. A lot of people talk about, oh, if the ice caps melt, if all the ice melts up there, it's going to make the sea, it's going to flood the whole earth. You know, one of the islands up there, they did a thermal scan, found that under this island, it's a pretty good sized island. It wasn't the actual continent, but it was on the side. So they counted over 300 rivers flowing from under the ice into the ocean. Yeah, that ice melting isn't going to make that ocean go up. The earth is a perfect ecosystem, and the Lord controls it. Verse 8, all things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be. Remember, we've talked about this in a bunch of videos, how nothing has changed in thousands of years. People are still the same. That which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. True? Very true. The same false doctrines being proposed today were the same ones being proposed 2,000 years ago. The same false teachers and the things that we're doing today, same thing 2,000 years ago. Verse 10, is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. And that's the truth. There's nothing, we've come up with nothing new. There is no, cars, well, they had vehicles back then too. May not have been powered the same. They had powered motors. The Egyptians had steam turrets. Boil the water, starts to spin it. They used it as motors. They had batteries. One guy I saw, they had these big old clay pots, and they had caps on them, and it's got a big copper thing stuck in the top of it. And they found out that it was full of vinegar, and it had copper in there. And what it was doing is it was creating a current. And so one day he took a ohms meter and he wanted to test and see if it was still working. He put out 960 volts. Yeah. And that was a small one. In case you're wondering, how is that possible? The pennies we have today are zinc. Take a piece of sandpaper and sand one side off. And then get thin pieces of cardboard, soak them in vinegar, and slide them in between each penny and put a stack of 10 pennies together. You just made a AA battery, and you can make contact with the end, and it works. Lasts a long time too. As long as it stays wet with vinegar, the chemical reaction creates energy. Yeah. Amazing. They knew that before we did. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. Think about what he just said. There is no remembrance of former things. That's true. We forget our past, and then are doomed to repeat it, unfortunately. Nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. He's telling you a puzzle. He's talking about the future time. They won't remember all this stuff. This stuff will cease to be a memory. All these things that happen, all this world is going to cease to be a memory. It's one of the blessings we're going to have from God whenever the new world, the millennial reign is started, and then the new heavens and new earth. The old former things will pass away. They won't be remembered anymore. That's actually, I believe, in the book of Revelation. And so Solomon in Ecclesiastes was talking about the very same thing that is all the way in the book of Revelation. Interesting. Everything sublunary is on the move. Time knows nothing of rest. The solid earth is a rolling ball, and the great sun himself a star, obediently fulfilling its course around some greater luminary. Tides move the sea. Winds stir the airy ocean. Friction wears the rock. Change and death rule everywhere. The sea is not a miser's storehouse for a wealth of waters. For as by one force the water flows into it, by another they are lifted from it. Men are born but to die. Everything is hurry, worry, and vexation of spirit. So, judging by the language being used here, this devotion was written at least 100 or more years ago. Notice, nothing's changed. That's exactly how it is now. Hurry, worry, and vexation of spirit. Friend of the unchanging Jesus, that would be salvation, all of us who are saved. What a joy it is to reflect upon thy changeless heritage, thy sea of bliss, which will be forever full, since God himself shall pour eternal rivers of pleasure into it. We seek an abiding city beyond the skies, and we shall not be disappointed. The passage before us may well teach us gratitude. Father Ocean is a great receiver, but he is a generous distributor. What the rivers bring him, he returns to the earth in the form of clouds and rain. That man is out of joint with the universe who takes all but makes no return. That's the truth. We are always bad about taking and not giving back. To give to others is but sowing seed for ourselves. We talked about that this morning. Remember? To give to others is but sowing seed for ourselves. What you do for others is a blessing unto you. That's what he talked about this morning. The lesson in Haggai he was trying to give them. All of y'all run to your own house. You're not worried about the temple. I want y'all to come together as a people and build the temple, because what one person does blesses the person on each side of them. Hello? He who is so good a steward as to be willing to use his substance for his Lord shall be entrusted with more. Friend of Jesus, art thou rendering to him according to the benefit received? Much has been given thee. What is thy fruit? Hast thou done all? Canst thou not do more? To be selfish is to be wicked. Suppose the ocean gave up none of its watery treasure. It would bring ruin upon our race. God forbid that any of us should follow the ungenerous and destructive policy of living unto ourselves. And brothers and sisters, that's the world today. They only care about themselves. Remember I think it was day before yesterday. Remember I got on my soapbox a little bit and I talked about the stuff going on with Anheuser-Busch and Dana White, the UFC fighting promoter, and Sean Hannity, and they were talking about, hey, give them another chance, build them up. I told you they invested. Well, it came out today. Bill Gates invested $100 million in Anheuser-Busch. Anheuser-Busch made a deal with Dana White for $100 million. Anyone you hear saying, oh, hey, give them another chance, that's because they've invested in that company and they're trying to build their investment. They're lying to you. I don't trust any of those people. Selfishness. Dana White sat on there and said, oh, it's not about money. Yeah, it is. That's the whole reason why you do stuff like that. It's about money. They only care about themselves. They don't care about anybody else. They don't care about what's right. They pretend they do. Oh, but Sean Hannity's a Christian. Well, that's debatable. He's Catholic. I'm just saying. I don't know his heart. But some of the things he does are not Christian in nature, that's for sure. Just saying. But the point is made. The lack of generosity in the world today is just astounding to me. I see it everywhere I go. Convenience stores, doctor's offices, you name it. And it was the same way back then. Whenever, I can't remember what their names were, the people that had sold a piece of land and said, hey, let's keep some of that money back. And then they ended up dying because of it, because the apostles knew what had happened. Yeah. Selfishness doesn't bring good things. You know what? We're all a little selfish, and sometimes it's okay to be a little selfish depending on what's going on. But how much better is it for us to be generous, no matter what, even if it hurts? Will not God reward us for that? Will not God pay us back triple, double, quadruple? To overflowing is what the Bible says. Yeah, of course he will. Jesus pleased not himself. All fullness dwells in him. But of his fullness have all we received. Oh, for Jesus' Spirit, that henceforth we may not live unto ourselves. The goal would be to be more like Jesus. And in order to be more like Jesus, we must be generous. Because he was generous beyond understanding, beyond grasp. So we should be generous too. What Jesus did won salvation for everyone. Did he keep it to himself? No, he shared it with everyone. Everybody who wants it can come get it. Jesus inherited all things in the kingdom. Did he keep them all to himself? No. We're going to be co-inheritors with him. So may today misunderstand. Everything you have comes from the Lord. Why not use it to share and to bless others with it? Because in the process of doing that, and it may be a small thing, but in the process of doing that, your vehicle, your tools, your food, your time, in the process of doing that, not only are you showing a good example of what a good Christian should be, not only are you sowing seed for good, the act of doing that brings not only a blessing to those to the left and right of you, but it back onto you yourself. And so we should be generous as much as we can be. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be times where you're not going to have opportunities. I run into that a lot here lately. People don't want you to do anything for them. They just cannot possibly let somebody do anything for them. And it's weird to me because I didn't grow up like that. And these are people that are older than me. They're like, oh no, I got to pay you for your time. No, you don't. I'm happy to come help you. Enjoy. I find that it's near impossible sometimes to do something for others without them thinking there's some strings attached. No strings attached. Enjoy. Have it. But that's the mentality today. Selfishness. You give of yourself and then you get chastised for it. That happened a lot at my last church. More than I sit here and think about it, it was a lot. I would accomplish something that they couldn't accomplish, and then they would get mad at me for it. Okay. And your problem is what? I said I didn't care. I just enjoyed doing stuff for others. I enjoyed helping. But I can tell you the most valuable thing you can give of yourself. It's not your things and your stuff. Those you should share. It's your time. Give of yourself. Because that has more value than anything. And it's one thing to hand somebody a $20 bill. It's another thing to help somebody get up out of their situation. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes that's not what they want. We can't. We don't govern that. We do what we can. Take that selfishness that we have and get rid of it and be willing to share with others. I still can't get away from, how many times I've even tried that and they don't want nothing to do with that. Oh no, what's your deal? What's your angle? I don't have one. Where's the strings? There are no strings here. And they'll deny it. That's the way of the world. And so don't be surprised if that happens. Don't be surprised if you're denied. Here's other consolation we have is that even if we're not able to do the physical act, the Lord knows the intent of our heart and we will be judged by the intent of our heart. And so if the intent of your heart is to do it, even if you can't physically do it, it's almost as if you already did it. Love isn't in the act. Love is in the emotion and the driving force behind the act. I can tell somebody I love them, but if it's not actually in me to love them, then I don't really love them. I'm just speaking words. But if I really do genuinely love them, that's the part the Lord observes. And he knows the intents of the heart, as the scriptures tell us. It's a beautiful thing to come out of those things that the world has taught everybody, but to come out of those things and to see things as they really are, to see clearly, and to be able to judge these situations, judge yourself, and sit back and not be a part of it. I'd rather give everything I have so that others may be blessed than to keep it all for myself and it not do anything for me anyway. Because once you have the Lord, you have all that you need and none of this other stuff matters. It's just taking up space. And when the time comes that we're to pass on and go on, what happens to it anyway? It goes to everyone else. And they all fight over themselves trying to see who can get what when. They fight over themselves to see who's going to steal it. And they rip themselves and each other off, deny each other, and are selfish. I've seen it happen time and time again all throughout my life. Sometimes even before the person is dead. One of my great grandmothers, she had gotten pretty sick. She was, golly, she was in her 80s. And she had been babysitting all the way up for ages. Old, frail old woman. She finally got sick and had to go to the hospital. And she was pretty rough, but she probably wasn't going to be able to come back home. And so her son, my Uncle Leo, he went back to the house to clean up the house and make sure everything was okay. While they were at the hospital that day, his brothers and sisters came to the house and ransacked it. Because she had a lot of valuable plate collections, all kinds of stuff, old antique furniture, and that. They ransacked the house, destroyed it, took what they wanted. Happened to my neighbor, Mr. Staples, before he died. We got to where he couldn't get around outside. They just came over and opened the shed and started taking stuff. And he was telling me, I don't know what they were doing. I couldn't get out the door. They just went in there and started going through everything. He wasn't even dead yet. Yeah, that's the selfishness I'm talking about. That's how people are. So like the Bible keeps teaching us, what difference does it make about this world and this stuff? We do what we can with it. We bless others with it. But you know what? One day we're going to move on and it's not going to matter. Somebody else will come along and they will take it. So what difference does it make? Let us seek first the kingdom of heaven. And all these things will be added unto us. Let us not worry about this life and what these things here, but let us worry about the next one. Because when our mind is set on the world to come, the world we're at now becomes so darkened in a shadow that we have to remind ourselves to take care of things. So let us be about that type of mentality, thinking about the world to come and less focused on this world. There's still stuff we have to do, still got to clean house, still got to do all these things. But they're not the important part. The important part, our focus, is what's coming next. Let that be our focus. Because then we cease to be selfish. Because then you realize, I'm not going to get to take this with me. Here, take it, enjoy it. Just like that. Lord, take this selfishness out of us as your children. Take this selfishness away from us. Make us to be generous and giving. Generous in all things. So that we may glorify you in that too. In your name, amen. Guys, thank you for joining me for evening devotion. Let that stuff go. Because when it all is said and done, none of this matters. We don't even take the clothes we wear. We get a new robe. Come on. We don't even take the body. Even the body stays here. It's just us, just our essence. We go. Get a brand new body too. So what difference does this life make? It's all going to get burned up anyway. In fact, there's a verse about that. All these things are going to be burned up. What kind of people should we be? I think we have our example. Jesus Christ. I love you all very much. I bless you all in Jesus' name, and I'll see you in the next video.